Now, there's one great thing about Mark Hamill these days is that he's been very vocal about his involvement with both Jon and Dave and exactly how they are about to utilize the new version of a young Luke Skywalker, not just in Mandalorian Season 4 and Book of Boba Fett Season 2, but also a handful of other Star Wars projects on the horizon as well. This is Mike Zero. Make sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel for future Star Wars updates. Also, by the way, guys, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support. It is greatly appreciated. Now, one thing that we do know about, of course, Mark Hamill over the years is that he's been very much, kind of going back and forth between his overall view of the character of Luke Skywalker and how he was used in the sequels by Rian Johnson and J.J. Abrams. And that brings us to the main subject today, and what Mark Hamill had to apologize to the entire Star Wars fandom for specifically. We'll get into that in just a second. Now, the thing about Jon and Dave is that they are currently on a mission to essentially re-establish the Luke Skywalker that fans grew up with. Be it, of course, Luke from Legends or the Luke that you know in the original trilogy, doesn't matter. They just want to make sure that they're going to provide the version of Luke that fans have loved for decades and exactly how they're going to be able to expand that character into something very new and special. So with that being said and all, we already know that Bob Iger is taking a different approach to Star Wars. He wants to actually begin to bring out more movies again, instead of mainly focusing on TV shows. That's not to say that he's canceling shows in general, but he wants to focus more so on movies than TV shows, that kind of ratio. So, with that being said, with actor Mark Hamill recently being more vocal about his discussions with Jon and Dave and their use of Luke in future Mandoverse shows, Hamill recently had something specific and powerful to say to the Star Wars fandom. Hamill went on to state the following to the fans. "One thing I feel most terrible about is how I had to lie to all the fans over the past couple of years about my true feelings for how Luke was used in The Last Jedi, let alone the entire sequel trilogy. When I first read the script for The Last Jedi, I knew something was wrong with my character and that this would seriously divide and split the fandom. But I really wanted to apologize for holding back my true feelings and my honest perception of Luke and how he was created for the middle film of this trilogy. I think I hold that feeling of regret, almost like I could have done anything, to convince Disney to change things up at the time for Rian's interpretation of Luke." Now, let me just pause here about what Mark is saying, is that first things first, Mark has nothing to apologize for. I don't know why he's apologizing to the fans. I mean, I respect it, I do. It's just not his fault. There's nothing that Mark could have done. Now, Mark is saying that he feels he could have done something more, that he could have done something that would have changed Disney's mind. And maybe that's the truth. Maybe he could have. Who knows? Maybe if he put his foot down and said, "I'm walking off this project unless you change things," maybe and just maybe Bob Iger at the time would have changed things up, or even Kathleen Kennedy for that matter, right? Who knows, maybe even Rian Johnson would have caved and made an ultimate decision. But what's done is done, we have to deal with it, and that's what Jon and Dave are here for, basically giving us the Luke that we enjoy, giving us the Luke Skywalker that we have been asking for a very long time. The only downside is that, yes, I understand a lot of fans have always been looking forward to a proper, mature version of Luke, an older version of Luke, right? And the way that we got him in the sequels just did not resonate with fans like it should have, right? So Mark Hamill's putting that out there, that his feelings for Luke in the sequels 100% match the fandom's feelings. He's putting that out there, finally. We know that in the past couple of years, Hamill had to retract a lot of his statements, had to retract a lot of his, quotes about really kind of giving out the true feelings about how he felt Rian treated Luke in The Last Jedi and stuff like that. So, with that being said and all, one other thing that we do know is that Jon and Dave are seriously trying to patch things up with the wrongs that were made in the sequel trilogy by JJ and Rian, especially by Kathleen Kennedy, right? So moving on to the next thing here, alright, he goes on to say, "Now don't get me wrong, Ryan was a nice guy, but his direction for Luke was completely out of the ordinary, and at the time I just took it as, well, let's see what happens for the third film. Until I read that I was getting killed off, my heart just sank. It was the worst secret to keep. Not only did I hate keeping it to my audience or to the fandom from anyone, but I also tried to keep it a secret to myself. I could not accept that this was happening. So I'm sorry to everyone that we let you down. I am truly sorry about that. I feel it was worse for the fans than it was for me, because I knew about this for 2 whole years before it turned out in theaters. And the backlash happened just as I expected, but I am happy to be working with John and Dave in their treatments of Skywalker." So, once again, I want to stop here quick before I get to the next bit. Hamill's really putting it front and center that he really saw the backlash coming. He saw these problems arising. And you know what? When you have something like that happening, when you have something to that extent happening in secret, you can only imagine how soul-crushing this could have been for Mark Hamill. Now, the thing about Mark Hamill is that he's going to be very involved with Mandalorian Season 4. It's going to be a very heavy plot that will involve Luke Skywalker, and it really is going to lend a lot of, new spin-off shows, a lot of new stories to tell. It's basically going to be treated as a new foundation to spawn a lot of new Star Wars shows out there. But you see, that's what Bob Iger's trying to do now too, is that he finally greenlit something behind the scenes, that there will be Mandalorian movies coming out, a Mandalorian trilogy. We talked about this, a brand new sequel trilogy in a sense, that is going to have a lot of Luke in there, in theaters again, with a very high budget. So the characters that you love now, like Din Djarin, Grogu, Ahsoka, Bo-Katan, Luke, Boba Fett, and all the other characters that will arise in Ahsoka, are going to be used in this Mandalorian trilogy that they're setting up, and Mark Hamill has already signed on behind the scenes. He's already endorsed the entire idea, and it's moving along. We're going to be talking more and more about this as we get closer to the official announcement by the end of next year. So, the thing about everything related to John, George, and Dave is that they really are trying to pretty much, give the soul of Luke Skywalker back, right? Really giving that spirit of the character back with the fandom. And it's going to take a while, it's going to take progression and evolution for the character to succeed that. But they really want to work their way up to really kind of going throughout the years of aging this character out throughout all these different shows and these movies, you name it, to give us the real proper version of a Jedi Master version of Luke. So with that being said, I think that we have a lot of things coming our way. Mark Hamill, really putting it out there that how he feels so bad for the fandom. It's just unbelievable. But anyways, guys, drop a comment below. Let me know what you guys have to say about all of this below in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.
From night to moon, we hear them moans again.